Wisconsin voters find out today who their major party nominees are for November. On the Democratic side, the most recent statewide poll of Democratic voters released Friday by State Navigate, it showed State Representative Francesca Hong leading with 44%. Milwaukee County Executive David Crowley sat at 22%, and State Senator Kelda Roys trailed at 11%. Welcome back to the States. I'm Greg Bishop, and we, of course, have that Wisconsin primary. 4 other states also have their primary. But in the race for governor, Hong in Wisconsin sat down with Wisconsin Eye a few weeks ago, and they focused on affordability.
We need to expand Medicaid. We have to look at pilot options, including a public option and increasing basic health plans. And we know that healthcare costs are high because healthcare prices are high. So looking at where we can see tax exemptions or fluctuating prices or unfair pricing from hospitals, making sure that those are at market prices, similar to legislation that passed in Indiana, to make sure that we're helping to maintain healthcare costs at a lower level by ensuring we're bringing down healthcare prices.
Also speaking to Wisconsin Eye, Crowley said that he's the Democrat that will actually focus on the issues hitting people's pocketbooks.
It's the affordability crisis, whether we're talking housing, childcare, healthcare, groceries, gas at the pump. Everybody understands that they need a little bit of relief. And so first and foremost, we have to make sure, one, that we are assisting our public schools, one that will help to naturally ease the property tax pressures that many communities are facing right now. I truly believe that, one, we need to repeal the Unfair Sales Act. This will help save more money at the pump for all of our residents across the state of Wisconsin, to the tune of about 30 to 40 cents per gallon. But we also need to make sure that we're focusing on childcare, healthcare as well.
Joel Brennan, he's a former top cabinet official under Governor Tony Evers. He argued that the answer lies within the people.
One of the first things we need to do is make sure we at least inject in enough into that system to keep it going for the time being. The statistics say that about 25% of daycares are in danger of closing in the next 6 months to a year. Waiting lists are going to increase. Prices are going up. I was at a daycare on Monday, and the woman said she's increasing her prices by 10% come September 1. And it is directly as a result of the fact that the state's not taking care of its end of the bargain when it comes to daycare.
Now, there's obviously a lot of choices in the Democratic field, and one more is candidate Roy's. She's putting childcare costs front and center. She says she has a way to pay for it all,
which is to expand the Wisconsin Shares program, which is paid for 60% by federal funds, to let everyone participate in that. And that way we can cap the cost for parents at 7% of your income per kid. And for most parents, say you make $100,000 a year, that would be $7,000 per child. I can tell you that is far less than what I pay as a parent of a kid in childcare. And we can pay for the state portion of that by legalizing and taxing cannabis. I like to call it get baked for babies.
Now, on the Republican side, someone else talking about cannabis legalization is Andy Mansky. He told Wisconsin Eye how he'd make life more affordable, and that's just one of the options.
Obviously, at some point, I would love to pursue getting rid of maybe the income tax or moving towards reducing that gas markup tax, if you will, for our gas, obviously with the whole Iran stuff going on. But I would like to see life be cheaper as a whole. I think, no offense to the surplus thing, but if you have a surplus and it's not being put into the citizens, I mean, it's just sitting there. It's just like a bank account that has the money sitting there. It's not really doing anything. You actually might be losing value over time. I think it should be put forward. When it comes to a surplus as a whole, I'd love to see more money come in. I've talked about legalizing marijuana with regulations, guidelines, protecting populists, protecting special needs kids, because I work in the medical field.
Now, while Hong faces several Democrats in the Democrat primary, Mansky, who you just saw there, faces Republican U.S. Representative Tom Tiffany in the Republican gubernatorial primary. Tiffany, on his campaign site, pledges to freeze property taxes, repeal recent tax hikes, drive down energy costs by focusing on reliable baseload power, and to cut what he calls burdensome regulations on housing, childcare, and healthcare. Now, other big races in Wisconsin today include the crowded 7th Congressional District primary that's set to replace Tiffany, who's the presumptive Republican nominee for governor based on polling. And again, there are 6 candidates on the ballot in other races there for the Democrats. And a quick reminder, Wisconsin Elections Commission state law still bans anyone who's waged on the outcome of an election from casting a ballot. So those predictive markets, if you take part in that in Wisconsin, you can't vote legally in the Wisconsin election. Now, Wisconsin's strict voter ID requirement is also in full force. The Department of Transportation's Division of Motor Vehicles extending its hours today, and that's until 6 o'clock local time, so that people can still get their ID if they need to vote. Now, Minnesota, they take a different approach. No voter ID required. In the latest you can find at the Center Square, the U.S. Department of Justice stationed federal agents to monitor polling sites in 2 Minnesota counties ahead of today's primary election. The Justice Department announced that agents from the Civil Rights Division monitoring polling locations in Hennepin and Ramsey counties. The 2 counties account for the majority of Minnesota's urban centers, including Minneapolis and St. Paul. Harmeet Dillon, Assistant Attorney General in the department's Civil Rights Division, said that the deployment of federal agents was part of a broader effort to ensure election integrity across the country. Leaders in Minnesota slammed the Justice Department's plan to deploy agents in the 2 counties. Minnesota Secretary of State Steve Simon said that he plans to have state observers stationed to monitor the extent of federal oversight. But the races in Minnesota still very much top of mind for voters, including which party could possibly control Congress. Election watchers are zeroing in on Minnesota's 1st, 2nd, and 5th congressional districts. In the 5th, U.S. Representative Ilhan Omar is seeking a 5th term after months of renewed national attention. She's called for abolishing immigration customs enforcement, lowering prescription drug costs, and limiting Trump's military prowess regarding Iran. She's facing challenges from several people, including a probation officer and an attorney. And you have whoever that Democratic nominee is, they will face Dalia Al-Aldiki, a Republican candidate who's made targeting fraud in state government the centerpiece of her campaign. Minnesotans are also choosing their nominees for governor today. Governor Tim Walz, he announced that he would not seek a 3rd term after reports of fraud in federal programs and the Trump administration's decision to pursue prosecutions. Several candidates on both sides now vying for the job. And in Minnesota, the governor and lieutenant governor, they run on the same ticket. And there's also an interesting race. U.S. Senator Amy Klobuchar jumping in after Walz said he wasn't going to run. She's focused on fighting fraud in the state and distancing herself from Walz. She faces 6 other candidates. On the Republican side, 3 names leading the pack. Former MyPillow CEO Mike Lindell, Minnesota House Speaker Melissa DeMuth, and Kendall Qualls. Last night, Lindell got the support of President Donald Trump. Trump posted on Truth Social, quote, "Mike Lindell deserves a big win in Minnesota today. Nobody's worked harder and given up so much in fighting for free and fair elections. Go out now and vote for Mike Lindell for governor. He will not let you down. Thank you, President DJT." We'll be watching those races closely. There's also primaries today in Connecticut, Vermont, and several U.S. House seats in Alabama. Get the latest at thecentersquare.com.